What mistakes did you make early, discussed in your live podcast, that could have progressed you further?
Yeah, I think there's just some real big obvious ones. Wasted a bunch of time. You waste a bunch of time when you're young. You think you got forever and you waste time. And whether it's doing stuff that's not productive, whether it's going out, getting drunk, whatever dumb things you waste time doing, whether it's just wasting time. I'm not saying don't have fun in your life, because that's wrong answer too. That's too extreme. But what I am saying is I sometimes I had a little too much fun. Sometimes I wasn't focused on the right things. So wasted time is number one. Wasted money. Wasted a ton of money on dumb stuff. I'd say that both of these, so wasting time, wasting money, those are like the two biggest mistakes that I've. But I would say the root of those mistakes is that I didn't do a good job of connecting the future to the present. You just don't. When you're young, I shouldn't say that. When I was young, because I don't want to put a universal blanket of being dumb on everyone, sure, even though you're nodding your head pretty heartily over there.
Well,
because you were probably,
yeah.
Well, we see a lot of people do this, right? Well, a lot of us, we waste our time, we waste our money, and we don't connect what we're doing right now with what's going to happen in the future. And that is not a good policy to have. What we want to do, and what I try and instill with kids, with my kids, with kids that I talk about on the podcast, is I want to connect what decisions are being made right now with decisions that with the end state that you end up with in your future. So if you take advantage of your time, you're going to be in a much better place. If you save your money, you're going to be in a much better place. If you invest your money properly, you're going to be in a much better place. If you train and you treat people, if you train hard, you're going to be in a much better place. If you treat people respectfully and you build relationships, you're going to be in a much better place. You do the opposite of those things, you're going to be in a worse place. If you treat people like dirt, it'll come back to bite you. If you waste your money, you won't have it. If you waste your time, you'll run out. So I think the biggest mistake really for me was that I failed to connect the present to the future. The only ways that I succeeded in that early on was through luck. I joined the Navy, and I'm very lucky that I did, because I was immediately building my future, even though I had it wasn't my intent. Right. I bought a house. That was a great, what did I buy it for? I wanted a place to live. What did I end up with? An incredible investment, enough to buy another house. That one was a little bit more intentional. Oh, okay, wait a second. If I own another house, and I was just talking about this with a friend of mine, it was like, that I was explaining and he remembered when I got my second house, and I was like, in my mind, Donald J. Trump, the real estate landlord, like master. Yep. Right? Someone was going to be paying me rent,
Yeah.
and I had another house that I was going to live in. Mm-hmm. So that was when I started making this shift, where I connected the present with the future. Yeah. So what you do today is directly correlated to where you'll end up in the future. That is in Echo's favorite sort of thread of this entire podcast.
Yes, sir. Is
playing the long war. And it took me too long to start fighting. That's what I'll say. That will say the biggest mistakes from my early life.
Yeah, and really, in a way, they could be viewed as not even really mistakes, I guess. Just as more of just sort of that's the way things happen. Because most times we figure these things out later in life, when the long game starts to materialize. Because when you're early in your career, only the short game is sort of there. And then in a way, actually, no. At the end of the day, no. Because even as a little kid, you know the long game. You're familiar with it a little bit. Because like you ever had to save your money for something, like an Optimus Prime toy, something like that. And they said you got to save your money for it. Yeah. And bro, you save your money. That's playing the long game.
Yeah.
As a kid, it's a kid version, so it's kind of the same thing. But maybe it's not as intuitive, when you're little. When you're big, when you're grown.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not intuitive. And it's the other weird thing is, like, someone has to tell you, but like we just talked about, sometimes when people tell you, you still just don't listen to them.
Yeah, yeah.
People say, "Hey, you should really do this," and you go, "Yeah, whatever, that's for you."
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's for you.
One of my uncle's friends won the lottery years ago, like in the 70s. And he won one of those big lotteries where he got money every year. You could take the lump sum, or you could take the
payments.
The payments.
Hell yeah.
He took the payments.
Yeah.
But won the lottery, right?
Literally won the lottery. Mm-hmm.
And so the payments lasted 20 years. Well, when you're 22, that's forever.
Yeah.
Right? That's forever.
Yeah.
And so my dad was talking to this guy that won the lottery, and now he was at like the 19-year mark.
Yeah.
And guess what he had done with all this money?
Spent it
Did
up.
he invest it in real estate? Did he start companies? What do you think he did with this money?
Spent it.
Yeah. He bought car and whatever.
Yeah. That tends
girls
to be.
and, or whatever, dated girls and went to bars and went out for nice dinners and did that for a long time.
Yeah.
And so my dad says, hey, they're talking about it. He says, well, this is the last year that I'm getting my monthly payments for winning the lottery. Mm. And my dad says, what are you gonna do when the payments aren't coming in anymore? Mm. And he says, I'm gonna win again.
Dang. Sweet.
So yeah, that's planning, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, kind of.
And no, it's not,
no,
obviously.
It's not,
but
obviously, yeah.
man, won the lot. But that tends to go like that for lottery winners.
Yeah, apparently the lottery winning isn't a big happiness deal.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It ends up being bad because life is a long game.
Yeah.
And no matter how you play it, the long game is the one that shakes out, Mm-hmm. So if you're over here playing the short game, that's why you lose in life, if you play the short game all the time.
Yes.
And the people who play the long game, they just, all you got to do is play it. You don't even have to dominate it. Mm-hmm. Although I'm not recommending not trying to dominate. I'm not saying
try
that.
And dominate.
Try and
but
dominate.
You don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, you could come in, second to last place, but if you're playing the game, you're going to be doing good in the long game.
When you come in second to last place in the long game, you still just beat everyone. Single other person that's playing the short game.
Yep.
You beat them all.
Yeah. And it's not
and they're over there looking around like, what just happened?
Yeah, how is it? You're so squared away. Yeah, but it's not that complicated, I mean, it's not easy. It's because it's not easy. You're wired to play the short game.
I had to go deep on this on that last Warrior Kid podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, this yeah.
Just like
short-term
you
gratification.
need to get over the short-term gratification.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest lessons a kid can learn is that my actions today will affect my future.
Yeah.
And it's hard to convince them of that. Yeah. It seems so distant.
Yep.
Like the future seems so distant when you're young.
Yeah.
I was having another discussion with someone the other day, a parent, and there was a level of frustration and it's the typical level of frustration from the parent, which was, the kid has a lot of potential, but they're like, not training the way they should be and not working the way, all that stuff. And what I tried to explain to the parent was that the potential that you're telling your kid that he has, they do not even comprehend what that means. It is it's not something that they can understand. It's completely intangible. Like even when you say, if you keep practicing this, you could be the champion.
Yeah.
This means you might as well say, if you keep practicing this, it means nothing to them.
Yeah.
So that's what potential is to a little kid. A little kid doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
And so yes, you try and convince them. You try and explain it to them. But what I recommend is instead of trying to explain to them this massive concept of what their potential is, you try and give them some short-term rewards that lead them in the right direction, that are supportive of the long game, but they're easier mental connections for the kid. And the same thing applies to employees as well, right? Or you get a young employee that's, they're not thinking they could be the regional manager, right? They're just thinking, they're just happy to be here.
Yeah.
But you're looking at them going, this is a sharp kid. Could. So you might not say, look, one day you're going to be the regional manager. Right. In 22 years. Think about that. When somebody gets hired on as whatever, and you say one day you could be the regional manager and you could make whatever, this big chunk of money. They're looking at you going, I'm not going to be here until, I'm only going to have this job for 6 months, whatever.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is just tie something a little bit closer to them, to their reality.
Yeah.
Of, hey, here's where you could get, here's where the bonus program works here. Have you seen this? You can make an extra whatever.
Yeah.
And it's going to move them in the right direction in the long game, but they can comprehend it immediately.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
Shoot, even just compliments and encouragement are good little micro rewards for those short term. Like, so I'm thinking with my kids.
Once again, we can't abuse them.
Yeah.
We can't abuse friendliness with our children. We can, or we can't abuse that. Maybe that's not the right word.
No, it's not the right word.
We can't abuse cheerleading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't abuse cheerleading with our kids, and everything that they do is beautiful. Right.
Yeah.
No, that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
A piece of art that you just created.
Yeah.
What is it?
Beautiful, whatever it is.
Yeah. No.
Yes, sir.
It's like that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
But you're just talking about abusing.
And the other thing you have to be careful with is, you're telling your kid like, well, you're special.
Yeah.
Or you're so perfect.
Right. Yeah. And
it's like, no.
Yeah. So
you can get better.
Yeah, it gets,
you're marginal at best.
No, bro. No. Yeah, and when I mean encouragement and compliments, it's like if they do something good, you compliment that good thing. That's essentially it. And yeah, like anything, you can throw out too many and you can throw out too little, really, because the fulfillment or satisfaction of receiving that compliment isn't big enough for the work that they just did. Be like, man, I don't want to do those 100. I made my daughter do 90 burpees the other day.
Why 90? Did you just want to withhold
no,
the century
I'm working
from
her out.
She didn't get to 90 and say, hey, Dad, you do whatever you want. I'm getting 10 more. Watch this.
No.
We're getting to a hundo.
Well, here's the thing. She's done that before, but not with 90. So I'm working her up. I started from I was like, hey, when she was real small.
What was her time?
Oh, I didn't time it.
How are we going to recognize improvement?
Because we're going to get to the number first, then we go for time.
Got it.
So, I mean, that's the straight. I mean, it's not like, my life's mission, of course. It's just a fun little thing that I do. But...
sounds fun.
Yeah, one of them, sure.
If you guys liked this video, like, comment, subscribe, and head over to the original video link, which will be down in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take ownership.